Jeff, I remember
Right.
Jeff Ork,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, he asks us all to come in suits. So
That's funny. Is he back in Colorado or is he still in Indiana?
I don't know. I haven't heard from him in a while.
Okay.
These have been invaluable for me as far as getting minutes when I don't show up at the meeting.
Oh, really?
The recorded stuff, yeah.
The recording's good?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
It's clear enough. Everything works well. I might be the only one who ever sees them, but
There's a few people that watch
there
it.
are?
I don't know. Yeah.
just even more entertaining than CNN, I guess. Yeah.
Probably more lively than your local council meetings, right?
So how come that vapor's so big? And I see the
It's
kids
the
with ones
batteries.
that are about this size.
It's the batteries. A lot more wattage.
Okay, so the ones that are really little.
Hey, Kat, Slant's behind you.
What?
No.
They have
Okay, as
small
soon as he comes
batteries,
back
they
in.
don't have watts?
Well, they have smaller batteries, but the juice is different.
Matt and Cat.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't use much.
Well, I make my own.
It's got rides.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
does.
Believe it or not, you can buy really strong nicotine.
Hey, dang. Well, don't hurt yourself, man. Too much nicotine. I don't know if there's a problem with too much nicotine. But,
Yeah.
Where did Lance go?
They're just more complex.
The bathroom.
I'm trying to quit though.
I don't know. Gives you a nice boost. And it's like caffeine right here. Yeah. Put this out. Frame. But, yeah.
And do we need him in here to get started?
No?
Okay.
We can start.
All right. It is now 7:01 p.m. on the 9th of September of 2019. The Libertarian Party of Colorado State Board of Directors meeting will now come to order. We will begin with the reading and approval of the agenda. Board members, have you all had a chance to take a look at that?
Yep. Boring as always.
Also note we have several members online, so if an online member wishes to interject on something, please go ahead and message me through Facebook or say so over the phone. And just be prepared for a couple of delays in dialogue. All right. At this time, is there any objection to the agenda as written? Hearing none, that is approved.
I have no issues with the agenda.
All right, who is speaking? And please state your name for the record.
Sorry, Michael Lopez, campaign.
Did you say you wish to add something to the agenda, Mike?
No, sorry. Just, I must have missed something. I have no problems with the agenda.
All right, excellent. Hearing no objections, the agenda passes.
No. That's not
We will go ahead and proceed with introducing our guests. If you are a guest and you would like to speak, you will have 3 minutes to speak on any topic that pertains to the Libertarian Party of Colorado, unless we have noted otherwise in the agenda. When you get up to speak, please state your name and what organization you're with, if that's applicable. And at this time, we'll open the floor to guests.
Hi, my name is Kira Burgermeister. I am here with Liberty on the Rocks. I have a piece of paper for all of you, so forgive me for passing out. Hi.
All right. Kira.
So I think a lot of you know me, but many of you may not. I'm here as a follow-up to an email I sent regarding sponsorship for a special event that Liberty on the Rocks is hosting actually here in this room on October 12th. What we're doing is we're bringing in Thaddeus Russell, who is a historian and author. He has a successful podcast. He's got about 20,000 downloads per episode, and we're looking for sponsorship for that event. I've included in that handout some of the different things that we're offering with that sponsorship that I think would be of interest to the Libertarian Party of Colorado. And I'd also love to hear any feedback you have on those options. So any questions I can answer.
Do you have less expensive sponsorship opportunities?
I certainly do, yeah. So we have a number of different levels. I picked this one out in particular for the Libertarian Party specifically because it has an exclusive table at the event, which I thought would be interesting to you all. Other sponsorship levels that I have more expensive ones, of course, which include, pre-roll ad space available as well. And then the lower levels of sponsorship would exclude things like a table at the event, as well as a lot of the ticket packaging options. And those range based on what you want.
All right.
Okay.
Excellent.
Perfect. Anything else I can answer for you?
questions from me. Anybody else? All right, thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks, Kiara, thank you.
What is the price of a ticket?
Price per ticket is $15 for general admission. We're trying to keep it really affordable by hitting up people to sponsor. As well as we do have some priorities tickets available as well. Those are $30 per ticket. And what that gets you is the first couple of rows of the event. You'll be able to have priority Q&A during the event, that type of thing. See interest.
Absolutely.
Maybe some new voters, different group of people coming too.
Perfect. All right, who would like to speak next? Right?
Frank Atwood, your liaison to Center Right Coalition meetings, also involved with the Approval Voting Party. I happened to miss the CRC meeting this morning, but Approval Voting Party is currently at about 900 registered members. Any questions? Thank you.
All right. Anybody else like to speak next?
Blake Huber, I just want to, I represent also Approval Voting. I want to mention that we just came back from Young Americans for Liberty Yalcon in Austin, and these people are libertarians. Now, this was in Texas, and some Libertarian Party members of Texas were there, but I encourage you guys, if you ever get a chance to have a booth at Yalcon, do so. You will find a very receptive audience. These are millennials who think like we do. I was so excited. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Hello, Carrie Ann Harlos. I didn't get a chance to take a look at the agenda, but I wanted to bring the board's attention once again to that Scrivener's error that was discovered several months ago that still has not been fixed. It was either in the bylaws or the Constitution, and it's actually a significant item that could cause us trouble if that's not fixed. So that should have been done. Second item is the bylaws committee applications. That deadline is coming up rapidly. I don't know if the board had that on their radar. And lastly, just a general comment that I didn't really plan on making, but I've been stewing on it a little bit, is there's been some communications with people who have, that's all I have to say about that.
Very well. Is there anybody else who has to speak? Go for it. Well, is there anybody else? Okay, is Linda here?
Yes.
Alrighty, Linda.
So I am Linda Templin of RCV for Colorado. Thank you so much for inviting me to come here and speak to you all about ranked choice voting. And I would be remiss to not point out that we have incorporated as real choice voting for Colorado because we are technically not against other types of voting. It's just a matter of what works best for the voters. So as we see, there will be a rollout of approval voting in 2020 in Fargo. So we'll see how that goes and what the studies show of, are there strategic behaviors? We don't know. So we'll see then. And as to score voting, nobody's doing that, so moving on from that. So there is that Maine uses ranked choice voting statewide, and it's used in over a dozen municipalities here in the US, including our own little Telluride vote splitting problems. So they've provided feedback to the Secretary of State's office on exactly what a municipality or a county needs to run ranked choice, and the Secretary of State's office has promulgated new rules on ranked choice voting, has set up audit procedures, and we now have software statewide that runs ranked choice voting. So that was part of making the vote tally software homogeneous around the state, and they included the ranked choice module just to remain competitive. So the price was right on that. It was included. So have to love that. So we're working very closely with the County Clerks Association to make sure that should there be a rollout in a larger manner, that they will have, every county clerk will have everything they need for a successful implementation. So there is that. So it is entirely possible to run ranked choice voting elections starting, if people decide to go at a breakneck speed, it could be June 2020. I doubt that would happen, but that is a possibility. And that is a fire under the tails of the Democrats. The Democrats are tired of having, and I'll use their words, a toxic wasteland of primaries. It's bad for party unity. There's still people who are honestly mad at each other about Bernie and Hillary. So they understand it is not good for their party, which then presents everybody else with an excellent opportunity, because due to vote splitting between different conservatives running for office, you end up with wins like, I'm just going to pick on Clinton in 1992, when we had Ross Perot get, so in races high and low. So we have a idea of a thing that would, one, get rid of vote splitting behaviors, so we would know that whoever's in office, be they, anywhere on the political map, that they represent what the people want. So there is that. And then the other thing is that should we move forward with ranked choice voting, that is a pathway to major party status for the Libertarian Party. Okay? So let me put forth what could possibly happen. So we're hoping to have, our policy committee is working on 2 different pieces of legislation. One would be to give party option to use ranked choice voting in the primaries. So that would happen maybe 2022 is when it would actually get rolled out. And then we'd like to see local option again for school boards and county commissioner races. Just saying, okay. So that would be another great thing in our politics. Now what that would do is it would start to educate the voters on what ranked choice is and how it works. And that puts us in a good position to have a statewide initiative in 2022, like they did in Maine, to have ranked choice voting statewide. So if that gets used in 2024, and a Libertarian gets over 10% in a statewide race, there it is, major party by the close of 2024. So I believe that is why I was invited to speak to you all this evening. So,
Good news.
right? And it's just whatever is the will of the voters. And one of the things we're seeing, ranked choice was developed back in the 1800s simply to be more fair. Now it has the unintended consequence, as many things in public policy do, it has the unintended consequence that it makes campaigns more issue focused. So who knew you could have a positive unintended consequence? Because to get a win, candidates need those second and third round votes. So you can't just say everybody in that other party is a racist or whatever it is you want to say. That doesn't cut it, because you need those second and third round votes. And if I'm a candidate and I've already called you a racist, I think you're done, right? So that's not going to work. If I'm a candidate, I have to talk about the issues, the material conditions of your lives. And this is a really exciting thing in that, you think of Republicans and Libertarians that could be picking up independent votes and Green Party votes, which you wouldn't normally think, but the Greens are interested in having their privacy back, and they like guns. There's a number of, personal liberty issues that matter a good deal for Greens. So, and the Democrats, they'll be surprised to learn, are not entitled to those second and third round votes. So if your candidates do a good job of reaching out beyond the base, you can collect those second and third round votes. So do you have questions about, yes?
What's standing in your way right now of making this happen?
So, what stands in our way is that we are still a grassroots organization, so that's a problem. We have 2 interns, and we have me, and we have a board of directors. We're 501c3 and a 501c4, so we've got that part together. But we don't have it rolling to the degree that we would like. just based on economic considerations. Like we have a Northern Colorado, Southern Colorado, Metro Denver, Western Slope organizations, but we need people out there doing the presentations and going to all of the Rotaries and the League of Women Voters and, you know, all these various meetings.
Is the plan to make this a ballot initiative or get a legislator to sponsor it and then have it be a referendum? What's the mechanism you want to make it happen?
Okay, so we would like for the 2022 initiative, we'd like to see it legislatively referred, like Fair Districts was, and we'd like to use the same coalition essentially, because there is a strong appetite in Colorado for election reform.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Cool. I had a question. So when I was in the city of Aurora, I was one of 3 individuals to sponsor a petition to try to get ranked choice onto the ballot for Aurora through citizen referendum. We did voting, and we're going to use home rule to refuse to use it.
Oh, okay. So for statewide, it wouldn't be in every single race statewide. So you still have, like we currently have local options. So there's municipalities that can decide to use it, or they'll decide to put it on the ballot, or they'll, like in Aurora, they'll make people get it onto the ballot on their own. There is a group of people running, and they're progressives running in Aurora, who if they are able to get a win, they will just do a charter commission and pass it for Aurora.
I think I know some of those progressives.
Right? Yeah. So there it is. So that's exciting. But we want to, you know, it's a local, for municipal races, it's a local issue. So if a city doesn't want to do it, don't do it. Right? So it's, the cities are opting in as they want to use it. So it would be for statewide races. So we'd have it, you know, imagine for the governor's race. That would change things a good deal. And I mean, you know, politically and as far as engaging voters, when you think of that last governor's race, it was California cooties versus missed some meetings. Like that, those were the ads you were seeing on during the football games, and that was not an elevated conversation of public policy. You know, it did not give voters something to make a meaningful choice on. So that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to, is having a better conversation about what it is we want to see happen in this state.
Cool. Any other questions for Linda?
Is there any data to suggest that voter turnout has changed in Maine or other places where there is ranked choice voting?
Yeah, there is data to suggest that. Now, of course, in the social sciences, there's nothing that's 100% anywhere because people are squirrely. But we do see an increase in voter participation. We see an increase in turnout. And it can be, you know, it tends to be around 10%. Now, does it, you know, and it's people who are normally not engaged. So it isn't, oh, we're turning out more people of one particular political viewpoint. It's just generally people finally feeling like they can be heard, or they're not spoiling their they're not making a mess out of everything by saying what it is they want, right? Because if you say, I really like this, you know, far out candidate, you didn't ruin everything. Just, you know, when your person gets dropped out, your vote goes along with, you know, whatever your next choices were. You didn't wreck everything. And I think that's part of what turns people off, is you're voting wrong, that you can't really vote the way you want. So I think we'll see a lot of minor party, you know, votes increase. And, you know, that you finally have good information about what the candidates truly stand for. So that's why we think the numbers tend to go up. But I can include that. I'll send an email to you with links about things or questions you're asking, and so you can see the scholarly studies on that.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for that presentation, Linda.
Okay.
We appreciate you
Yeah.
taking
Thanks
your
for
time.
having me.
All right. We will now move on to the reading and approval of the minutes. Board members, if you had a moment to take a look that over, and is there any revisions that need to be made to the minutes? Give a couple of seconds for anyone from online to chime in. All right, hearing none, the minutes from the last meeting are approved. We will now go ahead and move into affiliate and development group reports. Are there any affiliate chairs or representatives in the audience?
Wayne Harlos, Douglas County. I'm sorry, Kat, I
Oh,
thought
you're
you
fine.
used my.
We'll go ahead and start with you, Wayne.
Douglas County is having its annual convention next month. I believe it's the third, first Thursday of next month. Love to have everybody show up if you can make it. We had great success. We have a road cleanup coming up this upcoming Sunday. Anybody would like to join us, we're going to be down on Parker Road. I don't know the time, I think it's 11 to 1, but I'll have to double check the time. I didn't have a chance to check that before we came up here today, but it's this upcoming Sunday. Love to have anybody come to join us. Afterwards, we usually go out for lunch, and so it's fun.
All right, excellent.
Wayne,
Yes.
is your meeting starting at the regular time or the time that you're meeting? Your
Regular
board
time.
meetings?
This is
So 6 o'clock?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, Kat Martin with Arapahoe County.
Kat Martin, Vice Chair of Arapahoe County. We have our Rapid Happy Hour coming up tomorrow night, starting at 6 o'clock at our outreach director Kevin Goldbranson's house at 21079 East Mineral Drive in Aurora, Colorado. We're going to be having burgers and hot dogs and tacos and such.
It's on.
And such. They put on a great spread, it's a lot of fun. We're going to have a Liberty brainstorm where we just hang out, eat, and talk strategy and what's in the future. It's a lot of fun, really relaxed. Please join us.
Okay, did we have somebody from Denver? Yes, Kyle, go right ahead.
Kyle Fury, Chair of Denver County. We've got our next meeting coming up next Tuesday, the 17th at 6:30 p.m. at the Dive-In. We're going to be talking about decentralization versus universalism as strategies for the Libertarian Party.
Now, last month you said you were right on the cusp of affiliating. Where do you stand with that?
I still need to talk to Steve about what all we need to get done to get that all together.
All right, any other affiliates or, oh, question?
Kyle, what date was the meeting?
It's the 17th.
17th, okay, thanks.
All right. Any other affiliates? John?
Pueblo County, the Frijoles and Chili Festival is coming up on the 20th to the 22nd. There's usually about 300,000 people who pass through there. You get a lot of attention. I do have a sign-up sheet. I'm still looking for some volunteers, so I would really appreciate it. Michael Stapleton, even though he's relocated up north, he is going to come down and help out, but I'm still looking to fill a few more slots. And then also our monthly meeting is on September 17th at 6:30. So if you're not attending the Denver meeting, come on down to Southern Colorado and attend the Pueblo meeting. The topic will be on the recalls. Leroy Garcia, our senator, is the petition ends on October 18th, so we'll find out then if he's going to be recalled.
You back at the Senate?
The Senate Bar and Grill, yes.
All right, any other affiliates? Hearing from none, we're going to move on next to the Libertarian Party National. Karen Ann Harless, would you like to give anything on that?
Sure. Our next meeting is coming up in November in Austin, so everyone is invited to that. Also, any party members should have gotten an email this AM regarding the National Bylaws Committee. Applications are being solicited through October 15th. If you didn't get that email, it's on the website too. So, get those applications in. If you're interested, there are 10 slots open. The applications for the national appointments to the to the platform committee, because national appoints some of the members and the states appoint some of the members, will be going out probably later this week, and I'll be working with all the states, including Colorado, on your delegate allocations, because we're coming up on the final run for that, and Colorado's now at number 8.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, excellent. Okay, we will now move next into board officer reports. We will start with the chairman. David, do you have anything to add to Victoria's report?
I do not. Just in case people are wondering why I'm here, I am merely the proxy for the state chair, Victoria Reynolds, who is in Ecuador visiting family. So that's why I'm sitting
planning a
here.
revolution down there.
Absolutely.
She was, but then she heard she still had to come back afterwards. Alright, excellent. Vice Chairman, I've got nothing to add to my own report. Next, we'll move into Treasurer. John?
don't believe he's online. I think he's out of town.
All right, excellent,
Is that correct?
perfect.
Yeah, he's not.
Okay.
All right, fundraising?
I don't have anything to add to my report, but I did want to mention that I didn't actually get the convention committee report done. So there were things that I wanted to address for the convention committee.
Fundraiser.
Since I didn't submit a report, I don't know if I should speak to it here or if I should wait till we come to that at the end of the list.
Fundraiser, let's add that to the convention committee report when it's time for committee reports.
Okay.
All right. Outreach.
Outreach, we had a fun event, the Second Amendment garage sale, Guns for Everyone in Wheat Ridge. It's on the notes there. We did get several signups, which I'm going to get over to David, and a $10 donation, so that was pretty cool. So I have that for you tonight. I'm still looking at some events. If anybody knows of anything coming up, I'd be very interested in trying to help that. And there is this event up in Grand Lake called Constitution Week. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, but it's pretty cool. It's the biggest Constitution event in the state. It's free, so I went ahead and reserved us a booth. It's on Saturday, September 21st. So I'm going to be reaching out for volunteers up there in Grand County. Lily Tang Williams will be on a panel up there throughout the week. They also have Kevin Sorbo. Hercules is their keynote speaker on Saturday. Apparently he's a big constitutionalist. And other people such as Rob Nadelson and Thomas Cranwitter. So some local guys up there. Should be kind of interesting, pretty fun. It's a big celebration of the Constitution. Could be a good presence for us up there. So I'll work on getting more details out to everybody about that. Other than that, I'm just working on getting some more events set up in the future.
Excellent, good stuff. Okay, next.
Steve, you on the phone? I don't know who this one person on the phone is.
Is that Michael Lopez?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, the only thing to add to my report is I sent the data sharing agreements to Weld and Denver counties, and I'm waiting on those.
All right. Sounds good. All right, Legislative Director, Mike?
He's on.
The only thing that I want to add to, or not really add, if you notice in our report, in regards to the upcoming ballot initiatives that will be on the November ballot, I included some language as far as positions recommended that the LP board should approve. So I would just like to make a motion that the LP adopts those policy positions that were so thoughtfully put together by Mr. Mike Seebeck. They're well worded, they're well thought out. There may be agreement to his position or the position that was put together on some BD, but I would ask for a second so we can have some discussion on this.
All right, so we have a motion on the table to approve and adopt policy position recommendations that were drafted by Michael Seebeck at the recommendation of the Libertarian Party of Colorado Legislative Director. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
All right, excellent. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
What's our position on Proposition CC?
Go ahead and take an answer here based on what I've got from the email. The recommended position is to oppose Proposition CC and, yes, oppose Proposition CC.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion on the matter? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move into a vote. Is there any opposition to adopting this motion?
Is this just for Proposition CC or both of them?
No, all the ones on the ballot.
This is to adopt all of them.
Should we read the language? I'm not sure how long they are.
This is how.
It was in his report, so.
Got it.
All right. Hearing no objections, that passes. All right. We have adopted these proposals as written. All right. Michael, anything else to add to your report?
No, that's it.
Excellent. All right. Membership Director, John?
No additions, one correction. The number I had in there for national members in Colorado was incorrect also. I think Karen and we were at 474.
Yeah.
And so ignore the number I have in there. still need more training from David. It's like an impossible task for him. I'm a slow learner.
All right, excellent. Communications Director, Lance.
I have nothing to add to my report. Instead, I'd like to use my time to announce my resignation as Communications Director for the Libertarian Party of Colorado's Board of Directors. As many of you know, I was reluctantly ran for re-election this past year, as no other volunteer would run for the position. I would like to thank everyone who voted me back onto the board, and it's been an honor being the holder of the megaphone for liberty in Colorado. I would also like to take this opportunity to express my belief in the new board, and that I believe they will continue to grow the party despite having to waste countless hours in petty gripes and complaints. That said, in my time on the board and during the tenure of 2 different boards, I have never in my life witnessed a bigger waste of people's time and energy than by complaining about those who were elected to unpaid and voluntary positions. Grown men and women hell-bent on arguing about meaningless bylaws and manufactured claims of people not doing their unpaid and thankless jobs just because they lost their bids for positions on the board. The same people I consistently fail to see show up at the Capitol, town halls, city councils, or in the streets to fight for liberty. The same people that would rather, by their actions, continue to have this party be a social club to further their fake importance as public figures and leaders for liberty. The same people that, no matter how much time, effort, and publication earned in local, national, and international media, demand that we still aren't doing our job. At a minimum, a good communications director is working at least 8 hours a week. For me personally, this means sacrificing family and billable time. One I cannot put a number to, and the other I can. For me, this equates to nearly $5,000 of lost billable time per month. I was asked, if your time is so valuable, why not step down? My answer today, if my time is that valuable, then the talent behind it should be effective, and it has been, but it is not valued by the pathetic whiners I've mentioned previously. On average, we publish a minimum of 4 articles per month. We've been in the Denver Post, Westward, the Pueblo Chieftain, the Mountain Mail, the Daily Camera, the Times Call, Being Libertarian, Think Liberty, and even Vice magazine cited alongside Joe Rogan. We've never had a month of losing followers on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, only gains, and only 1 or 2 controversial posts at the most in nearly 2 years. And most importantly, we've got people off their asses and in front of elected representatives.
Language, Mr. Psycho.
But it's still not enough. Those same whiners, rather than cheer on a new board like adults or volunteer to help them where they see failure, choose to act like 50-year-old children. Instead of fighting the state, they cause more and more infighting because they just can't get over the L they took at convention last spring. Absolutely pathetic, and they should be nothing short of ashamed. So I will be taking my talents and international media reach elsewhere, as I do not have time for such petulant, pathetic, and ugly people. With that, I move that the board accept my resignation under the condition that I am replaced by Stacy Petty via a formal vote. In unmoderated liberty. Lance Psycho.
I second the motion.
Order, please.
The motion is out of order.
Board, Mr. Psycho has resigned, and we must now appoint a temporary replacement. I believe that a recommendation was for one Stacy Petty, if that is correct. All right.
And that's seconded.
Excellent, and we have a second into that motion. Is there any discussion on the motion at this time?
Mr. Chair, that motion is out of order.
Who is Stacy?
Stacy?
Me. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Stacy.
I'd like to hear Stacy maybe introduce herself or talk a little bit about herself.
Absolutely.
Good idea.
This is my first LP board meeting, and the reason why this would be my first is because I have refrained from this particular aspect of party functions. My belief on how I best serve the Libertarian Party is being out among what I call just the hoi polloi, because I think that I have an ability to reach the average person. I've been told this numerous times. I hosted a radio show for a period of time. I left that of my own decision, although I do believe I was going to be fired
Yeah.
in that. I strongly believe that the Libertarian Party reflects the founding of this country like no other party. I spent my time mostly registered as a Republican, and I had that moment where I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't support what they support.
and I'm not a Democrat. I know I'm not a Democrat. What is out there? I looked at the Libertarian Party platform and I said, this is it. This is what I know that is comfortable for me. I know that my neighbor has the same rights that I have, and I can't take measures to keep my neighbor from practicing the rights that they have. Now, am I going to be able to replace Lance and do the fine job that he has done? Probably not. You know, I would ask that the board considers my lack of experience in this, but I have the heart and I have the time, and I would like to see the Libertarian Party move forward. It's been stalled for as long as I've been involved, and I hate that because it's something that I truly believe in. And I don't know from this point. I mean, you guys obviously are going to be making this decision about where we go from here, but I know that we have a message that the common man can understand. They're frustrated with Republicans. They're frustrated with Democrats. I watch all of this. I watch the Libertarians fight. You guys are not each other's enemy. Okay? Your enemy are the Republicans and the Democrats. We need to embrace that. We have an opportunity right now to move forward in a way that we never have before. We have Donald Trump as president, which I'm sure we're all in agreement on who he is exactly. Who do we have as the Democrat candidates coming up? There isn't anyone. I mean, granted, I might have been Hickenlooper sensitive because he's a Colorado guy, but we have an opportunity to move forward right now. And I hate seeing the infighting, and I'd like to step in and I'd like to help in the infighting. And I mean, obviously you guys can make that choice and how you want to move forward, but I see great things for this party. And I see great things. I see an opportunity that maybe we haven't had before to move forward. We have a lot of frustrated people in this country right now, in our state. We have an opportunity. So.
Thank you, Stacey. Mr. Secretary.
So, Stacy, how are you going to be able to ignore the whining and complaints?
I'm 50 years old, and I frankly don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me.
Sounds like a libertarian.
All right. So, Mr. Secretary, is there a motion on the floor to appoint Stacy to serve as the interim outreach director until the next regular election?
Chair,
it was
that
a motion.
is out of order.
Mr. Chair, the audience does have the opportunity to speak at the consent of the board, which means that you're required to ask the board if they consent to hear from the gallery. The gallery is consistently ignored at these meetings, and normally it's not that urgent, so I just go whatever.
I think you're listening
But
to
in
it
this
right now.
case, it is in fact urgent, and there's been 3 members of the gallery trying to get the board's attention.
Is there anybody on the board who wishes to hear from the gallery?
That's not how it works.
Okay.
You say, is there any, you take a vote, basically, and you at first ask if there's an objection. If there is, then you take a vote.
I see nobody on the gallery nobody on the correction, nobody from the board motioning to hear from the gallery, therefore we will move on.
That is not how it works, Mr.
We will
Chair.
move on.
Mr. Chair, if you can't do this procedure correctly, please pass again with somebody
I
can.
ask please that someone on the board appeal the ruling of the chair. The rights of the members are being squashed.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, John.
I would like to hear from either Wayne Harless or Karen Harless, as long as it is kept just to the bylaw that we would be in violation of if we move to fill the vacancy.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, campaigns, what are we voting on?
Mr. Secretary?
Michael, we're voting on whether to listen to a suggestion from the audience on how we might be violating the bylaws by appointing Stacy to fill in for Lance.
I got you. That's a no for me.
All right. With the way the vote has gone, that does not pass. We will continue. All right. At this point, we are now, Mr. Secretary.
Excuse me.
Who's speaking?
Michael, the legislative director. There were too many people not muted out that were attending remotely, and I did not hear the motion.
Mr. Secretary, can you read that back, please?
It's this one over there.
Okay, so the motion is that we listen to a member of the audience to explain how appointing Stacy to replace Lance would violate a specific bylaw.
Mr. Chair,
Is that still you, Michael?
this is Steve. Go on.
All right, Steve, what's going on?
Oh, I actually vote aye for that. But I didn't hear, and I'm sorry, it was very garbled, but I vote aye for the motion to let somebody from the gallery speak on the motion to approve Stacy.
All right, Michael Stapleton, did you have a vote?
Yeah, I vote to hear him out.
Was that you again, Steve?
No, that was Michael.
That was Michael.
All right, thanks, Michael. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, John.
I recommend we do a roll call vote.
All right, very good. We'll begin with roll call vote on hearing from members of the gallery to speak on the pending motion that is upcoming. We will start with Chairman.
Nay.
All right, Treasurer is absent. Fundraising.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm voting to hear, I'm voting to hear the explanation from the gallery.
All right, campaigns.
No.
Outreach.
Yes.
Affiliate development.
Aye. Aye.
All right. And was that you, Michael, for legislative?
Yeah,
All right. Membership?
Aye.
Communications, absent. Secretary?
No.
All right. With 5-3, that passes. We will go forward with hearing from the gallery. All right. The gallery may start one at a time. Who would like to speak first? All right. You will have 1 minute each. Mr. Seebeck, you may begin.
The motion, as made by Mr. Psycho before he walked out of the room, is out of order. A resignation cannot be tendered to the board contingent upon a motion to make a replacement. A resignation is either submitted and accepted, or it is not. The motion to appoint another replacement is separate from the resignation. That is why the motion is out of order.
All right. Who was that on the phone?
That's Michael Stapleton. Could you have those who are addressing the board please come up so the microphone can pick them up? Those of us online cannot hear them.
All right. Hey, Mike Q, where's the microphone at?
So the people on the phone, the microphone's right there.
All right. Excellent.
It's where the speaker is, right there.
Okay.
Yeah. Trying something new this time.
Okay, can you guys hear me better?
So this is.
Well, this one's for
Yes, thank you.
Your time starts over, Mike Seebeck.
All right. To restate what I just said, the motion by Mr. Psycho before he left the room to appoint a replacement contingent upon accepting his resignation is out of order. And resignation to the board is either accepted by the board or declined, and there cannot be a motion attached to it to make the resignation contingent upon appointing a replacement. Appointing a replacement would be a separate motion, and there cannot be a motion attached to a resignation.
Mr. Harlos?
Wayne Harlos, the resignation by Lance is understandable if he feels as though his time would be better spent elsewhere. I think his selection of a replacement is also very good. But you can't appoint somebody without putting it out to the general public and see if anybody else wants to apply for the position as well. That needs to be done for 30 days. So we can't, even if you wanted to appoint Stacy tonight, you cannot. It's in violation of our bylaws. Yes,
John,
Mr.
Chairman,
and then Mike Spalding.
wait, is it possible to appoint an interim and then, in the meantime, and then hold a formal vote for the permanent, after that?
Not within our bylaws.
I think our bylaw says that we can appoint someone and then they're elected when, at the next convention, we elect the person to take it.
Mr. Chair? if I may
Yes,
be recognized.
Mr. Williams.
Anytime somebody cites a bylaw, they need to cite the actual bylaw and not just say that's what the bylaws are. Thank you.
Ms. Harlos?
I actually respectfully disagree with my husband. I don't think the bylaws are specific on it. But I do think there's party custom of transparency and opening things up to members where we have always advertised to members. There is nothing so urgent that a 30-day thing could not go forward. And in fact, if you're so eager to have an interim, there are past communications directors who know the job that could be an interim. So to just have one name put out there is patently unfair to the membership. And I'm going to add at the end here, I'm very disappointed in the board that they allowed Lance to totally rail on and insult activists. That was completely inappropriate.
All right. Is there anybody from the gallery who wishes to speak?
This is campaign.
All right, campaigns, go ahead.
Looking at the Constitution for the Libertarian Party, Article 6 states, Section 2, that the Board of Directors may, by a 2/3 vote of the current members, appoint or reinstate officers. If vacancies or suspensions occur, reinstated or appointed officers are to serve until the next convention.
Very good. All right, Mr. Goldbranson, you have 1 minute.
I think Mr. Psycho made probably an error in trying to state a recommendation for his replacement as a contingency to his resignation. I think the board should assume that he has indeed resigned. There is indeed a vacancy. There is indeed a person who's here in the room willing and able to pick up the position immediately in an interim basis. I think the board can decide at this point whether they want to abide by the bylaws and accept that until the next convention, or to put out a feeler to the world. And I don't think we can get anything back in 30 days. I've never seen it happen for this board. It's going to be at least a 60-day period. So my recommendation would be for you to go forward and discuss selecting.
Mr. Spalding.
I'd just like to point out that social media is really important to us, and having that go lapse for 60 days would be not good for the Libertarian Party. So.
All right.
Mr. Chair, just to make a point, Mr. Lopez's quote of the bylaws is correct.
Say again, Mike Seebeck.
Mr. Lopez's citation of the Constitution is correct.
Very well. John?
I move that this board take an interim vote for filling the vacancy tonight and hold a vote for the permanent position in this October meeting.
Still a motion on the floor.
What's the current motion we've got on the table, Mike?
No, we have no motion on the floor.
Right.
The last motion was whether or not to hear from the
No, it
gallery.
was Mr. Psycho's motion.
Yeah, he was resigned. He resigned. He didn't have a motion.
The contingency's out of order.
Yeah.
So we need a second.
Second.
New motion.
Okay. So,
So we have a motion on the floor to appoint Stacy Petty as the interim communications director until the next election in October.
And then hold a permanent election in October to allow 30 days for other other nominations.
All right, do we have a second?
Object to the motion.
Do you object to the motion, Mr. Lopez?
we need a second first.
Yeah, if we have a second, I object to it.
What does that
Contingent
mean?
on the second.
That's,
Okay.
that doesn't sound proper.
I'll second the motion.
Okay,
All right.
second. Thanks.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All right. All those in favor?
Wait a minute.
Very
Still open for debate?
All right. Very well, as I was. Is there discussion on the motion from the board? All right, we'll begin with Mr. Pickrell.
I think I'll reiterate what the secretary said. I think it's important not to let this position go vacant. I think this is a good compromise between the two factions that we have here today. We're allowing time for another candidate to be given the opportunity, but at the same time, we're not making ourselves vulnerable to nobody posting on social media.
All right, is there any further discussion from the board?
Campaign again, I would just like to again state for the board that there is nothing that I see in the bylaws that prevents us from making a appointment, which from my understanding has occurred relatively regularly, specifically with outreach. So I would just like to reiterate to the board that we just need a 2/3 vote, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
All right, is there any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, we will move into voting, and for the sake of keeping our record straight, we will continue with roll call. We'll start with Chairman Proxy.
No, for the reason stated by the caller.
Treasurer is absent. Fundraising.
No.
All right, campaigns.
No.
Okay.
All right, outreach.
Yes.
Affiliate development.
Aye. Aye.
All right, and that was an aye from legislative. Membership.
Aye.
All right,
Mr. Michael, legislative, I have not voted yet, and I would like to rehear the motion, please.
all right, Mr. Secretary, can you read back the motion?
Michael, the motion is to appoint Stacy Petty as a communications director in the interim and to reaffirm with another vote in October if we have more candidates.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, communications, absent. Secretary.
Yes.
All right, and with 6-3 with my aye vote, Stacy Petty is appointed the interim outreach director pending elections to be held in October.
Communications.
Communications, excuse me, correction. We still love you, Brandon.
No pressure.
All right. Okay,
So I believe she can come up now if she wishes.
you may if you wish. All right, and last but not least, Secretary.
I have a question for outreach. In your report, you talked about $350 for an event with 17,000 attendees. So we usually pay about $250 for People's Fair that has 300,000 attendees. Do you think this event would be more focused as far as getting? No? Are you withdrawing?
No, I
that
didn't.
idea?
We didn't move forward with the event. The deadline was passed last Friday anyway.
Uh,
But I just wanted to send it out to the board to try and get some feedback so I can get kind of a feel for how we're doing things. So the feedback I got was helpful
Okay.
and will help determine planning events in the future. So no, I don't
Alright.
think it was a worthwhile event.
Want to be sure, okay,
Yeah.
that's good. And then, Proposition CC, we have some support from some other groups who are putting out money on it, and I'm glad to hear that we oppose that as well. If there's anything else we can do to oppose it, if anybody has any ideas, is there a press release we could put out, maybe our communications director?
Would you like to hit up our communications director at the conclusion of business?
But maybe put one out for, all the positions that Mike Seebeck, wrote up.
Perfect.
You know, I am unaware of the funding for the State Libertarian Party. Maybe I will refrain from being unaware of that. But I think one of the things that's important to point out here is Colorado is a naturally libertarian state. We have every election that comes along, especially this last one. People are opposed to taxes. They're also opposed to Republican candidates. CC is the perfect opportunity for the Libertarian Party here in Colorado to run with how important this is to the individual.
So would you recommend we do a press release just on CC to emphasize
Absolutely.
that? Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Okay, so we'll now be moving into standing committee reports, starting with technology.
I have nothing to say.
Perfect. All right, and database.
Two things I'd like to add to mine. We are going to be experiencing some price increases for email services. SparkPost, which is the email provider connected directly with National City CRM, is raising their price from $9 a month to $20 a month. And I just got notice today from MailChimp that they are raising their prices from $75 a month to $85 per month. MailChimp is the provider we use to send emails to subgroups here in the Libertarian Party to, for example, an individual county rather than the statewide list.
Are we using MailChimp every month?
Not every month, but occasionally somebody comes up with an event. For example, I think the last one was the thing we did down in Chaffee County. And so I emailed, 7 different counties.
Okay. In the area.
So I would very much like to get rid of MailChimp, but we can't do that until National comes up with what they call email segmentation. And that's, hopefully that will be one of their high priority projects here in the near future.
Okay.
I did let National know that these price increases are happening, and so hopefully that will put a little bit of a fire underneath them to get email segmentation going.
Anything else to add, David?
Nope.
Excellent. All right, ad hoc committee reports. We'll begin with the Welcome Committee. Do we have the good rabbi on with us tonight?
I think so.
All right.
Who is that?
Mark Montone.
Oh yeah, Mark is on.
Perfect. You with us, Mark?
He's muted.
We can circle back to them later
Okay.
if we have to. All right, we'll circle back to Welcome if they're back on. Campaigns Committee.
Who is that?
Michael Lopez.
Oh, because he's the
Okay.
campaign director.
Oh no, he's back on now.
I'll tell
Ask him
him.
again.
Ask him again, he just come back.
Mike Lopez, you got anything for the Campaigns Committee report?
Yeah, so I sent out an email to all the active affiliate directors. As far as I know, this is what the list that I got from people on. I asked them to help me identify all the races that they see on their ballots in 2019 to kind of shore up what opportunities we have. I have not received any feedback from that yet. As far as candidates go, I am still unaware of anybody that's running for a partisan position in 2019. So right now we're looking at 2020, and then I'll have to get with, I don't know why I'm drawing blanks, the treasurer on if there's been any type of increase on fundraising, but that's kind of where we stand right now. We're trying to identify races.
Excellent. All right. Policy Manual Committee.
I think that's John. John, he's not here.
All right. John is absent, so
No,
we'll...
the policy manual committee's been disbanded. You guys already voted it down. That's
Very well.
dust in the wind.
All right. Issues Committee Startup.
Is Michael Stapleton still on?
Yes, I'm still here. We're still taking some more volunteers for the Issues Committee. We have 2. I'd like to get some more. I'd like to see somebody who's interested also in chairing that committee. Like I said before, I'm willing to facilitate it, not willing or interested in chairing that committee, but I will participate. So just going to give it some time to see if we can get more than just the less than a handful of people who have stepped up to be on the Issues Committee.
Very good. Legislative Committee Reformation.
Legislative Action Committee, yep, we're still looking for volunteers. We're 120 days out from the legislative session, roughly about 90 days out. I hope to have a set of volunteers and we can get our first meeting for the Legislative Action Committee in order. Plus that'll give me some time because I will be entirely moved by then.
Perfection.
Mr. Chair, if Mr. Stapleton doesn't already have my name on his list for that committee, I would like to ask him to add me right now.
Wonderful.
That's good. I have Mr. Bill Branston is at the top of my list for that committee.
Thank you, sir.
All right, excellent.
Mark says his mic isn't working, so he's gonna send me some sentences.
Perfect. All right, we'll circle back to welcome once we get his sentences. We will move on to bylaws mandated committee reports. We will move with convention committee. Is there anybody from the convention committee who could speak? I know, Angela, you've had some things to say.
Yes. Okay, so we signed our contract with the Hotel Colorado on, so I'm going to be creating some polls to see if there's interest in things like having the party bus, and then a couple other events as well. A second deposit will be due, 25% will be due on October 3rd, so that'll be before our next meeting. I'm not sure if we need to motion to approve it, since it was part of the contract that we agreed to sign at the last meeting, but I want to make everyone aware of that it's $27.50 that's going to be due on October 3rd.
And Angela, does John know about that?
I believe so because I did forward him the contract, so, but I will,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I'll let him know, I'm just letting everyone know since, it's an amount of $27.50 that I just figured it should be out there because it's going to be due before our next meeting.
Excellent.
Yeah, other than that, we're just trying to hammer out details and put together the convention packages. We would like for things to be solidified sooner rather than later.
Okay. All right, Angela, are you making a motion to pay for this second deposit?
I think that was already approved.
All right, that was already approved?
Yeah.
All right. Cancel that. All right. Anything else to add to that, Angela? Oh, we have a question from David.
Yes. Angela, have you had any feedback from Amy in terms of the web pages?
We've been going over the web pages to determine how much flexibility there is in changing, the pricing on it. So there was a mock-up of it. We think that it looks good. I think we're just trying to determine how much flexibility that that we're going to have.
Okay.
Michelle, you have a question for Angela?
Ashley, I don't know if it's a question or if it's something that she's addressed at another time. We have a fundraising / convention, call for convention people to sign up on November 2nd, just so you're all aware. Day of the Dead, we're doing kind of a Halloween theme, and we'll ask you all to come and make phone calls.
All right, excellent.
So we'll have the pricing and everything set by then for sure.
Perfect. All right. Anything else from the convention committee, Angela? Hearing none. Did we get anything from?
Wait. I'm sorry. This is campaign.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if I missed something at some point, but have we voted on the platform committee appointment?
That has not been done yet.
Okay, then I move to put that on the agenda for next month, and further state that we cannot push that off.
I remember we pushed that to October, didn't we?
Yes, it was, the deadline for the applications was set to be October 31st, which means that we can't vote on it until the November meeting.
Okay, my mistake.
All right. Is there any other unfinished business from the board?
Do we still get reports from the style committee?
Did we get a style committee report? Oh, that was accidentally left off here. Let's go ahead and circle back if that's all right with everyone else. Style committee, you got a report other than needing the times for meeting from the other members?
Nope, that's it.
Excellent. All right. Okay. Do we have any other unfinished business? Hearing none, moving on. New business. Mark, say anything yet?
No.
All right.
I don't know. Maybe he's emailing us.
Okay.
He
Take
said
a look
he'll
here
submit
just
a
to
couple
make
of
sure.
sentences in a minute. So
Okay.
Anything else on the agenda?
Okay. Seeing none and seeing no other items. Yes, John?
Mr. Chairman, I do need to make a plug for newsletter. The goal is to have the next newsletter published by October 1st in order to give Karen Ann and Michelle enough time for printing, formatting, for Karen Ann to get all the content together. We need to have everything to her or the newsletter at lp.org email address by the 9th of September.
9th of September?
Like
Today's 3 days.
Yes. So I understand if we can't meet that, then it just means the publication date's gonna be moved out that much further. And we don't wanna do that. There are some things we wanna capture in the next newsletter. So I would ask every board member to please just give us a sentence or two on what you have going on in your arena, and then especially the affiliates. I think that's the biggest thing. If the affiliates can just 1 or 2 sentences to that email address or Karen Ann saying, hey, what do you have going on in your area? What are you focused on? If you're a development group, how far away are you, do you think, from becoming an affiliate?
Go ahead, Angela.
Sorry, can you repeat the deadline again?
The deadline was today, and so we'll go ahead and move that out 1 more week, and that means we would publish on October 7th instead.
Did you get content from Jeffco?
Have I gotten any submissions from Jeffco?
Right.
No, we have not seen any.
Okay, we'll work on that.
And Michelle and Karen, and you guys can correct me, but I have not seen
I
anything.
haven't seen anything from anyone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right.
We'll have content.
All right. Any other new business? David?
Apparently, there is a Libertarian who is running for Edgewater City Council on this 2019 ballot as well. His name is Larry Welshon, Welshon. So everyone should be aware of that and probably support him. Larry Welshon.
He's running for what?
Edgewater City Council.
Okay.
Cool.
Excellent. Okay, cool. Is there any other new business? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Seconded.
All right, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move into vote. Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
All right.
Yay.
Good work, people.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just want to make a quick personal comment
I
now
think
that
that's
you've
the
adjourned.
quickest.
Go for
I
it,
will
Mike.
volunteer for anything to help people out. I've done this on boards before. Nobody's ever called me to volunteer. Be glad to help anyone.